So, so this part, I'm going to do this in two parts. I'm not going to do record the whole thing with, but again, with the Milwaukee situation, it just become a crossroads. It's not, Giannis can sit there and play. I mean, would Giannis take another first round exit? I don't think it's fair to even put another first round exit on him. I believe this is a guy who should be playing into June, late May at least. And again, that's what the Knicks will give him. That's what potentially is San Antonio. Look, I'm seeing a lot of trade scenarios that think, well, first of all, a lot of people don't realize, again, you got to match dollar for dollar. So, I mean, you pretty much got to send at least $40 million in salary to the Milwaukee Bucks to trade Giannis. Again, as I say, the Knicks got the best chance of working a deal because Karl Anthony Towns makes dollar for dollar, almost dollar for dollar what Giannis. They have the same contract pretty much. I believe they might have signed it the same year, same escalators, the whole nine. So one will make 50. They both will make 53. You're talking about having to trade about $40-something million in salary. So, like San Antonio trade-off for everybody's talking about involves giving a second and 14th pick. So you're talking about the second and the 14th pick. Again, I've seen trade scenarios that don't even give him Stephon Castle. Now Ace Bailey and the other guy, Harper and Bailey at Rutgers. Those are the presumed second and third picks. Again, I'm not to say that these guys can't be franchise level players, but there's no guarantee. And then Stephon Castle. So what you get at 2, what you get at 14, like you got. I don't know. Again, that's that. And see if they made that deal, then Milwaukee is looking for a breakdown. Again, is Milwaukee ready to break down the whole team, or are they ready to pivot? Is Milwaukee ready to rebuild, or are they ready to pivot? Because you got to remember, you're gonna have a post Achilles. You're gonna have a post Achilles Dame Lillard coming back a year later. You're gonna have a post Achilles Dame Lillard coming back a year later. So is that what's how can you do a rebuild when you have to pay a guy like Dame Lillard probably a little bit losing a step? I mean, they do great jobs with Achilles injury surgery now, and guys do come back to be most. Dame Lillard is in his 30s. It's a little bit different, maybe, because they're expecting a lot from Jason Tatum. They're expecting a lot from Dame. But you got a guy that his game is based on shooting. It's not like it's based on a lot of athleticism. Kevin Durant has been great. It's been great, but Kevin Durant has clearly lost a step his post Achilles injury. And all Achilles ruptures and everything like that are not the same. All Achilles injuries are not the same. So you can't necessarily say, what's what. But either way, like I'm just going to go off the assumption that you're going to have a Dame that lost a step. Again, the whole premise of Giannis being traded is it fair for him to ask him to have to stay for 1 year to wait on a guy who you don't know what you're getting coming back? And then again, you're not going to be able to build this. I just don't see it. I mean, do we got a genius over there in Milwaukee? Well, I'm sorry. Let's keep it real. Whoever decided to give Doc Rivers the job, they were 30-13 when they fired Adrian Griffin. And the idea was the defense, under Doc Rivers, the defense isn't great. They have been a better than mediocre team since. They got knocked out in a gentleman's sweep in the first round. Where's this idea that they're going to build something there in Milwaukee? And again, I'm not trying to I root for Milwaukee by proxy. As long as Giannis is there, and he's one of my favorite players, I'm going to root for Milwaukee. But you gotta be honest. The dominant defense of that championship team is gone. You had it was just a comedy. How did they allow Bobby Portis to get suspended? So the situation in Milwaukee, while not desperate, it's just not. I don't see them getting back to contention. And if that's the situation, well, then then they need to figure something out. Again, I'll preface this by saying Giannis will not necessarily force a trade. That's not in his late nature. But it might just come to a point where all parties really need to sit down this off season and access the future. And I think Milwaukee owes it to Giannis to show them a plan for the future that he thinks can get him back in contention. Again, nobody's gonna no getting a ring is not the only way you can get a ring in the NBA. I don't care what, and this is an era of parity. The only way you can get a ring is to be a contender. Like a lot of people didn't think that Indiana was a contender this year, but Indiana was definitely a contender this year. I said that. See, again, I said I might have not have put Indiana on my contenders list, but I did put Indiana on a list of teams that could definitely a dark horse coming into the playoffs because I knew about their punching power. I just didn't think they played as well they do defensively, and that's just credit to Rick Carlisle. See, this is the next reason. This is the next thing. Having a coach they can build, they can level you up in areas of the game is very important. This is why, again, for those that talk about the Thibodeau firing, man, how could you fire a coach that got you here? Because we expect more. We need to expect more. If we're with the Knicks, we have to expect more. If OKC could have been a lottery team 3 years ago. We were in the playoffs 4 years ago. They were a lottery team 3 years ago. They were the team that we picked up. You could we dumped salary by trading Ousmane Dane on draft day. We traded back and we traded again. So we dumped salary so we could get Jalen Brunson in the first place. A lot of Knicks fans, this is only 3 years ago, they forget that. But OKC was a team you dumped your salaries in, but they were using that. A lot of people don't understand this building strategy in NBA. I have to explain this to so-called experts and casuals, where you take bad salary when you're sitting there and you've broken it all down. You take bad salaries and you take the draft picks along with them. You let the salaries run out, and then you have draft picks. You hit on those draft picks, and now you have the inexpensive core to a pretty good team. Then you also have money under the cap to like the OKC did with Hartenstein, where it didn't matter what they paid him. Hartenstein is not a $31 million player. He's got 3 years at $87 million. He's not a $29 million a year player. And they actually signed him to a front-loaded deal where it goes down. Like the annual value of his contract goes down. It doesn't go up. So look at it again. Look at it the way you build. Teams are going to get it or they're not. Teams are going to be there or they're not going to be there. Again, I don't see OKC being. I don't see Milwaukee being there. Milwaukee has they can't. If trading for Kyle Kuzma is the best they can do, and this is no knock on Kyle Kuzma, but again, he's your third best player on a winning team at best. Probably your fourth best player on a championship team. I didn't see a lot of chemistry there. I didn't see it. Obviously Kuzma's this guy can go for scoring explosions. His defensive effort will be up and down. Again, he's Kyle Kuzma for a reason. But, and again, the people will sit there and talk about what the Knicks would have to gut. Well, look, like I said, you either trading the cat in some pieces, and again, look, Milwaukee's going to have to sign Bobby Portis, who said, I took discounts to stay here and try to win a championship. He won a championship. but to try to win another championship. And at this point in my career, I'm not taking any discounts. I'm gonna take what I get. So again, if you're gonna work out a trade come July, sign a trade situation, and it would behoove you to just look for the best deals. Milwaukee has to either pivot or break it down. Either pivot or break it down, and that's where they're at. That's where they're at. Unfortunately, like again, the injuries, the gamble on Dame Lillard, the gamble on Doc Rivers, a lot of that brought to me. I mean, again, they fired Budenholzer, who they won a championship with. Well, you fire a championship winning coach. Look, with all this talk in New York about firing a guy that got us to the conference finals, they fired a guy that they went all the way with. They went A.J. Griffin. They felt that he was 30-13. He was the second seed in the East. And they fired him. And they wound up the 4th seed. That playoff. Then they wound up the 5th seed this year. Again, it's like mediocrity. A little bit over mediocrity. And again, so again, this is me looking at, and I'm not even at the point where I can look at Milwaukee's everyday situation. I'm not local to their market. I do follow them from a distance. I do follow them from the distance that I'm at. But again, I don't see it. So again, I know this off season it will behoove them. It will behoove Giannis to really take a look at what they want to do, what they plan to do, and then go from there. So, I'm going to wrap it up here. Just the Giannis, this is really talking about the Giannis situation and a little bit with the league overall, because there are going to be a lot of movement in the league in this offseason. I predict that. And, so, yeah. There we go. All right.